Okay, so let's take a look at how you can create heat map in Matplotlib. So first thing, we will make sure that we have Matplotlib installed. So pip install Matplotlib. So once you have that, you also need Jupyter-lab, right? So these two things we need in order to create our heat map plots. Right now, what you can do is you can use Jupyter-lab to start the server, or you can use Jupyter Notebook, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Jupyter-lab. Now here, what it will do is it will open one browser window. As you can see, it has opened the dashboard. Right, so I already had one of the notebooks running. Let me remove the code and use shift enter to get rid of the previous output. Right, now that you have your notebook open, you can write numpy as np, then import matplotlib dot pyplot as plt. Right, so here we will be also be creating random seed and seed of 2. Then we also need random data, so we will use data equals to np dot random 3 byte. Right, now what we're going to do is we are going to go for figure and axis that would be called from subplots. Right, then we will use show method. Right, this will be creating the heat map, but it will require data, so we will be passing on data here. Right, then plt dot show. Right, so this should form our basic heat map. If you run this, np random, so the error being 3 by 8, let's change this to 8 by 8 with bracket of its own. Right, so that's something we didn't add. So run this now, and notice that the moment you do this 8 by 8 here, it will show you the heat map. Right, so 8 by 8 was basically our this particular square. Right, so we got that and managed to get the plot. Right, now next thing, we can add few things to the current setup. We can add labels. So let's say if I choose X labs, and for that I choose to use the square bracket where you have G1, G2, G3, right, and all the way to G4 and G5, G6, G7, and then finally G8. Right, so we have our total 8 observation for X, and now we will go for Y labs. So here we will do the same with adding A, then B, all the way to H. Right, so C, then D, E, F, then G, then H. Right, so we have our X labs, Y labs values. We'll also be adding the set underscore x takes value, and for that we'll be taking np dot a range, and here we'll be using length of Y labs. Right, next thing would be to also think of labels Y labs. Right, so considering the first should be for x ticks, we need to replace this y labs with x labs, right? And also we have to use the x labs length, right? Then we will set y tick, right? Before that we will have to think of the brackets, so we are closing this, then a range being closed, right? After the x labs it should be closed, then labels, our final is closed, right? So let's just copy this and paste this, just replace x with y and y labs, right? So we have those things taken care of. If we run this, let's see what happens. Here we got our x y labs ticks, right? So the next thing we will be doing is rotating the tick labels, right? So we can also go for, let's say, custom color, right? So for custom color, I think the thing we can do is we can add CMap, right? And for that we can use blue, right? So let's see if I run this, let's see what happens. So our heat map is now turned into blue color palette, right? Similarly, we can also add color bar to the current setup, right? So for that, however, right now the next thing we will be making use of, let's say we are going to use IM, and then we will be setting our IM show output to this particular IM, right? Then to draw the color bar, we will be using c bar equals to ax dot figure dot color bar, right? Which should take our IM, and also we will be passing in axis equals to axis, right? So c bar dot axis, then set y label, right? Because it will appear to the y-axis, so we will be using color bar as title. Then we will also use rotation equals to -90, and also we are set to bottom, right? Close the bracket, and let's try and run all of this to see what happens, right? So we run this and notice that we have our color bar to the right. Also we managed to shift the title -90. You can experiment with this, so we can use -45. Let's play around and see what type of output it gets. Notice that change in value. So let's try and do 180. So -180, let's see what it gives you. Okay, so it's upside down, so we'll have to say -90 seems to be the right value, right? So there we have got it in a vertical mode, right? There are also few more things you can do, like you can set the title, right? You can also add the grid, which is already a grid, so adding that won't be doing much benefit to you, right? So here we can add heat map. So we added the title heat map. We will run this, and as you can see we got heat map. You can also set the margin and try and get heat map to a specific value by setting xy values margin as well, but in this case it defeats the purpose. Same with your grid, so you don't need grid or background. Considering contour maps, heat maps, or anything that shows you the data in colors won't be good fit for background and grid, right? So these are some of the things that you can do with heat map in Matplotlib. Okay, two more color palettes that I didn't discuss here. One being using the magma color palette, which is pretty much common. Also there is the green color palette that is often you can see with GitHub or any other similar place where they use heat map for showing the progress, right? So we'll see how magma would look, right? So if I type in magma and run this, notice the color bar will show you the value related to that, as well as you will find this sort of heat map can be a good option to track progress for project management or for GitHub type of use case, right? There is also the famous green one which we can check out, which goes with YL then GN, right? And then run this. So here you see you have heat map showing green color and the overall color bar showing that output within your heat map plot, right? So you can use either blues or this green color or even magma to display your heat map plot.